Good evening and welcome to the Drive at 5 on IntellectualRadio.com/iHeart radio station. I'm your host, Roman, and we have a great show planned for you today. But first, forecast from our IntellectualRadio.com Weather Center. Yes, folks, it's that time of year. Yes, we are away, and that means the autumn equinox. So that means days will start getting shorter and the nights will be getting longer as of today. Today, scattered showers and thunderstorms. I know, Wanda. High 76 degrees tonight. A chance of a shower or thunderstorm, low 69 degrees. Tomorrow, partly sunny, high 80 degrees. Tomorrow night, partly cloudy and cool, low, guess what? 62 degrees. We getting down there
we're
now.
Getting down there now.
Wednesday, partly sunny and breezy, cool, high 75 degrees. Thursday, pleasant, less humidity, high 80 degrees. And Friday, sunny, pleasant, cool, high 76 degrees. This weekend, Saturday, a chance of a shower and cool. Sunday, partly cloudy and cool with a chance of a shower, maybe even a thunderstorm might be inserted in there. High 72 degrees. The Drive at 5 is also part of the fabulous 5 at 5 only on IntellectualRadio.com. Tonight, my guest is the presumptive candidate of the 7th Congressional District, a community leader, and one of our very own intellectual hosts here. Please give a Drive at 5 welcome to Libertarian presumptive candidate for Congress, Tracy Jennings. Welcome to the Drive.
Well, thank you, Roman. Just one correction. I'm actually independent.
Independent.
Not a libertarian.
Oh, not a libertarian.
I'm not part of any political party.
Okay. So thanks for setting the record straight here. Okay.
Yes. Our friend is. I think that's probably.
Okay. Yes.
But thank you for having me.
Please give IntellectualRadio.com/iHeart radio station your background.
My background is I am a veteran of the United States Army. After attending high school in Chicago Public School, Morgan Park High, I went into active duty in the military. Once active duty was over, I moved into the corporate arena. I was fortunate to manage in 2 Fortune 500 companies. From there, I started my own real estate appraisal business. And that same year I left corporate, I also became a pastor. I've been a pastor now for almost 16 years. I ran my real estate appraisal business from 2003 into 2009. And then I was a pastor from 2009 into 2013 full time. But then an opportunity came up. With my background, I have 2 degrees, one in psychology, one in management. And I started working for the state of Illinois as a public service administrator. So my time with the state of Illinois, I was a public service administrator in the Department of Human Services, Department of Children and Family Services Legal Division, and the Department of Employment Security. And I held that position until last November when I resigned my position there to focus on my run for Congress. I am married. I have to give a shout out to my wife, Cynthia. Almost 26 years, September 11th, it'll be 26 years. We have 2 adult children and we're empty nesters.
Oh, now that's when we come back on the Drive at 5, we'll have more on the presumptive
independent
candidate, Tracy Jennings, when we come back after this.
All right.
Testing. Okay, testing. Okay, testing. Okay. Oh, okay. um, should I start over again or no? It's up to you. Yes, it is. Yeah. Um, it depends on her. Now, but it was just my mic, not his. Okay, so I think we can. Oh, okay, that's fine. That's And we're back on the Drive at 5 on intellectualradio.com/iHeart radio station. I'm your host, Roman. And to my right here is the candidate of the 7th Congressional District, a community leader, and one of our very own hosts here on intellectualradio.com. Running for Congress is Tracy Jennings.
Thanks for having me, Roman. I'm excited to be here, man. Thanks.
Now, tell us, what is your platform for the 7th Congressional District?
Um, the first thing that I want to talk about is we have a civic engagement crisis in our country. And that's what kind of led me to run for Congress.
What is that
Civic engagement is, I'll give you an example. The Wall Street Journal released a poll just yesterday. 70% of Americans are angry with our current political system. They believe that our system is only set up for the rich and powerful and for those insiders that are connected inside Washington and out. And what has happened, you have registered voters now that are turning off, even though they're registered, they just are refusing to go vote because they don't see real change on the horizon. The mayoral election in Chicago should really have set off all types of alarms. 70% of registered voters, there's that number again. 70% of registered voters in this past mayoral election this past spring did not even bother to vote. Only 30% of registered voters voted. So what that's telling us is that, people are fed up and they're looking for something different, a person or people who are going to actually be about the business of the constituents. So that's really what moved me to want to run for Congress. This has been a process that has taken me about 3 years to come to this conclusion. But that's it. When I talk to people, you hear it all the time. Oh, it's nothing going to change. It's nothing going to change. And in our current state, for both political parties, the duopoly is what I call it. 99.9% of the monies that are raised by candidates at the federal level comes from corporations, political action committees, these PACs. So they're funding these campaigns. The voice of the people is getting drowned out. And until we start calling those things out, you're going to continue to see the erosion of civic engagement, which it hurts all of us because right now only about 30% of the people in this country are choosing even the president. When you add up all of the numbers. So that's my biggest thing. We're really trying to bring attention to the civic engagement crisis. My platform, we're going to start with something very basic: listening. Actually going out and meeting the constituents where they're at. Our district, any congressional district, houses between 700 and 720,000 people. So our district stretches from the west suburbs through parts of the west side of Chicago into downtown, turns south, goes through parts of Chinatown, parts of Bronzeville, over into Inglewood, and then even west of Inglewood. So what we did, we broke our district up into 4 regions. So what I do, I spend 1 week out of each month. There's 4 weeks in a month. I spend 1 week out of each month working in each of those regions because I want the people to know that I'm not going to just, hey, this is my core over here, and I don't care about the rest of the district. So we're doing listening tours. So the last quarter of each month, we started this back in March. The last quarter of each month, we have a what's called a conversation with the candidate, and it's at a different location in each region. So coming up in September, we'll be doing, actually September, we're only doing 3 because the second weekend in September is my 26th wedding anniversary. So we'll be out of town in Arizona and then going to Las Vegas. But those conversations with the candidate gives people an opportunity in those areas to come out and voice their concerns to us. And so what we're doing, as opposed to saying we have all the answers, we're actually letting our constituents and talking with the constituents and building a legislative agenda and a constituency agenda from there. So if everything goes as planned, we would host 27 of these before the election day, which is November of 2020.
So what is the response you've been getting that creates your platform?
The response, we're hearing education. Of course, you hear education, and just today, the Trump administration announced another $7.1 billion that they want to cut from education. So people are very concerned about that. So education is a key topic that we hear all the time. In our district, criminal justice reform, is another topic that we hear all the time. Creating jobs. My last assignment as a public service administrator with the state of Illinois was with employment security. In our district, Roman, 17% of African Americans between the ages of 18 and 30 are unemployed. That is almost 5 times the national average. We have a crisis, employing our young people. So we talk about that. We talk about reinvesting in the community. How can some parts of our communities, and our district is very unique. You have some of the most wealthy areas, and then you have some of the most poverty-stricken areas. So community reinvestment. How do we go about solving some of these issues that have plagued our communities for a decade? So we have a plan, and that's called our Change the Atmosphere plan, which I've been actually operating for over 10 years. And a Change the Atmosphere is a very basic system that we work with. It increases property values, it lowers crime, and it gives people an overall sense of well-being in their community. And then the last thing that comes up, I'm a veteran. It comes up is our making sure our veterans are taken care of, especially on the mental health issues. So those are the issues that have been raised through March and through June. And people are actually responding to our website and sending different questions in. So we're working as a team to say, okay, how do we actually go about attacking those problems? And that's what we're doing now.
No offense.
Okay.
Everybody sits here on the drive.
Sure.
Say, I'm doing a listening tour.
Mm-hmm.
I'm listening to the people.
Mm-hmm.
I'm listening.
Mm-hmm.
This is what they want. But they get in office, it's total opposite. And what makes you different of your listening skills differ from other candidates that's been on the drive, listening skills. And as soon as they get in there, it's like, I can't hear you.
Oh, I'm glad you asked that question. The special interest in the corporate money. If you actually follow the dollars, state for federal candidates or either elected officials, state officials, and even large municipality officials. If you go to I'm running for Congress, so I'm going to point people to the Federal Election Commission. If you look up your member of Congress, you can see every dollar that actually is donated to that member of Congress. In fact, there's another organization called Open Secrets, and they track everything. What we have, you just explained the problem. A lot of these people who are running for public office do not have a public servant's heart. They're politicians. So they'll tell you anything just for you to vote for them. All along, they know, I'm just going to tell you this. I'm going to talk about an emotional topic and get you rah-rahing behind me, but knowing that 99.9% of my money is being funded through special interests. So when I get elected, all I'm going to concentrate on is, number one, making sure I'm keeping my special interests happy. So the next time I run, they're going to donate to my campaign again. This is why we never see, candidates follow through. Me, on the other hand, I'm not taking, first of all, special interests will not give me money. I'm an independent. They're not giving me anything. So I don't even have to worry about that. We are funding this with small donors, $5, $10. You think about it, it's over 700,000 people in a congressional district. If 10% of that group decided to give $5 or $10 one time, candidates would not have to bow down to special interests, and they would have their constituents' needs at the forefront. So that's our goal.
But here's the problem with that
Okay.
statement. There are people that are taking special interest, and you look at their community, it's far better than the low income and people who are taking special interest. So what's again, it goes back to my question, the listening skills.
Hmm.
If I'm going to give an example, if a white candidate,
Hmm.
he received money from a corporation, unity is up there.
Okay.
It's flourishing.
Okay.
Black candidate, vote for me and I'll set you free
Hmm.
type of deal.
Sure.
He,
Okay.
he received the same amount of money, but his community is piss poor.
Okay.
What is the difference here?
Accountability. Have you ever heard of the statements of distribution? The statements of distribution is a website that any American can go to, and it tracks every dollar that your member of Congress spends. How many employees they have, what they pay their employees, what they pay in rent, what they pay for their lease cars, what they pay for their water bill, what they pay. All of these things are tracked. Every member of Congress, I'm telling people, every member of Congress, listen to me out there, receive $944,671 just for personnel every single year. They can hire 18 full-time and 4 part-time. Most people don't even know. In fact, Roman, before we decided to run, we polled 1,000 people in my district who had been voting, who are registered and been voting, and asked them 2 questions. Number one, who's your member of Congress? 94% could not tell me right off who their member of Congress was. The second question, what is the function of a member of Congress? 98% couldn't tell me what the function of a member of Congress. We have to hold elected officials accountable. If you don't hold me accountable, if you don't hold them accountable, then they pretty much do whatever they want to do. And we have to ask ourselves that question. Why don't we know these things? Every time I go to place and I start talking and I throw these numbers out and people are looking at me like, why didn't I know that? And this goes across economic lines, educational lines. I've talked to principals at prominent schools, and they're like, "I didn't know this." Ask you, and those are the questions I ask. Why don't we know this? Why is it that we're always in the dark? Other communities hold their elected officials accountable, and until our
So
community,
why blacks don't hold theirs accountable?
well, a lot of it, we have to go back into the history of it, and a lot of us really didn't get taught how important our political voice is. We were only told to vote for someone. We really wasn't told, okay, this is the agenda, this is what they're working on for us. And because if we give them their support, we can get these particular things taken care of in our community. So what has happened over years, people, in certain communities keep getting elected, but are not held accountable. And then they come out, they have the party backing them. And as long as they do everything that the party wants them to do, the party will continue to support them. So that's the issue. That's the issue when you're dealing with a monopoly, a political party monopoly. I'm an independent. All right. I have great friends that are Democrats. I have friends that are Republicans. I have friends and there are libertarians, but I'm an independent because, I really, all my adult life, I've been trying to vote for the best person for the job. And unfortunately, we live in a county, in Cook County, there's only one party. In fact, my position in the 7th congressional district has been held by one party, Roman, since 1950. Come next year, 70 straight years, 35 Congresses in a row, only one party has represented that seat. So we have to start asking ourselves, okay, we keep voting for the same party and we don't see things being delivered. The only way we're going to change that is number one, everyday citizens have to get involved. Right now, the average citizen spends less on supporting a political candidate than they do on a large bag of potato chips. That is actually factual. So people don't get involved because why? They say it's the same thing. So we're trying to educate and motivate all at the same time and say, listen, we can flip this right now. Independent candidates can start getting elected if we start holding our these elected officials accountable. Once again, you think about a member of Congress has at their disposal what's called the Frank mail system. The Frank mail system can send out literature to all residents, all non business residents in their district. But you have to budget that. Your overall budget, it costs you. So it's not free. We have not received a piece of literature. I have not received a piece of literature in 9 years from my member of Congress. 2010 was the last time that I received a piece of literature. My member of Congress has gone over that 944,671 for personnel. They have gone over that budget for the last 7 years in a row. Who's holding them accountable? And then if you call and you ask about these things, people say, well, why do you need to know that? Well, I'm a constituent. I have every right to know that. So the first thing, the biggest thing is we have to teach people, hold me accountable. If you hold me accountable, then if I'm not doing the job, vote me out. That's what you're supposed to do. I'm not going to come back, if I know I've done nothing and say, give me another 2 years. No, if I didn't do the job, I shouldn't have the job. And that's the problem. Once we start holding our elected officials accountable, watch,
But
you'll see
a lot of
the
people
change.
would say, especially in your account,
Okay.
2 years, how can you get things done in 2 years?
Oh, you can do a lot in 2 years.
Name me one.
Yes, you can. First of all, you have to actually look at it. It's two functions of a member of Congress. One, you have the legislative side, but the other one, you have the constituency services side. I can transform that office and modernize it. I can make sure that everybody in my district knows who their caseworker is going to be. You got to remember right now, the current member of Congress in my district does not have a caseworker on their staff. You say, well, Tracy, why is that important? Because if I had an issue with a federal agency, I'm supposed to be able to petition my member of Congress for help. So if I had an issue with the IRS or Veterans Affairs, I'm supposed to be able to petition my member of Congress to assist me in getting that issue resolved. The member of Congress and their staff can't promise a favorable result, but they are supposed to work with you to try to get that issue resolved. And the people who actually do that are called caseworkers. So we're going to have, going back to breaking up the district into 4 regions, every region will have a caseworker assigned to them. So depending on where you live, you would know that, Mike Johnson is your caseworker, that Tony Braxton is your caseworker. So if you had an issue, we're going to modernize all of that. We still have situations where they want you to fax things in or print them out. No, we're going to have things that fillable documents that you can actually, when you fill it in and send an email, you get a response back right away. So we can modernize our office. We can set up where we have a main office, and then we're going to put satellites out into the 3 different regions because our main office will be in region 3. So 2, 1, and 4. Each month, we're going to send satellite offices out into those communities just in case they couldn't get over to our office. We also can start to bring in federal agencies to have workshops on how people can actually go through the process of receiving federal grants for small businesses. So there's a lot you can do in 2 years. You don't just have to it's a legislative piece. And then there's also constituency piece. So your first 2 years, you make sure you're lining everything up so your constituents know how to hold you accountable. They know what they should be expecting. They see a professional run organization that they can feel proud. You have good customer service people answering the phone and not acting like that the constituent is bothering them. So there's a lot that you can do. You can also make sure people know about the different scholarships that comes through the congressional offices for the different military academies. So it's a lot of things. When I talk to people as I go through the district, and they're amazed. They're like, why don't I know this? All of it's public record. So I just want to make sure people understand what I'm saying. All of this is public record. There's nothing that I said that you cannot go and actually verify for yourself. And so when we empower people in the community, that's when you're going to see real change happen. And that's why my campaign slogan is expect more. We have to expect more from our elected officials. If they're not doing the job, they shouldn't keep it. And every 2 years for a member of Congress, that is your evaluation. So your evaluation comes up like you and I, when we work, we get an evaluation, don't we? And they say, okay, you're either doing this, you got to get some corrective action over here, or whatever the case may be. Well, with voters, that is their evaluation time. Don't let them fool you by running out the last couple of months before an election and they're visible then. Because people say the same thing. You say all of this, and then as soon as you get in, we don't see you anymore until it's time to get elected again. Once again, being organized. That's one thing I can pride myself in, is being organized. I've run an organization for over almost 16 years, been manager in 2 Fortune 500 companies, an administrator in the state of Illinois. And one thing that people that have ever worked with, they say, Tracy is organized, because that is key. Once again, being able to take that same model that I'm using right now. And if I'm not in Washington, D.C., when I'm back in those regions every single month, making my rounds, going out and listening to people, attending different events, being an active member of Congress, not just somebody that always say, oh, how difficult it is. When I went into the state of Illinois, everyone told me, oh, you can't do this. You got to know someone political. I proved them all wrong. So I'm going to take that same approach to Congress.
Let's go to some legislation issues. Immigration is the top issue in the nation. You represent some areas in your district that are represented by immigrants. As congressman, what is your plan for immigration to assure people and their children they are safe from being deported, as well as a pathway to citizenship?
It's a couple of things that have to take place. People are being lured to our country. And this is a part of immigration that we don't speak about. They just did raids in Mississippi.
Lured in what way?
They're being lured here. Companies who don't want to pay union wages continue to lure immigrants here for low wages. And those companies are not being held accountable. Just a couple of weeks ago in Mississippi, they raided 4 different plants, arrested over 600 people that was here undocumented. And those companies got a slap on the wrist. They're luring people here with, hey, you can work. Now they know, because if we could set up a simple system. If someone is coming here legally or want to come here, we fingerprint them. A national database goes in, they want to work for you. You run their fingerprints, just like we did in DCFS Legal. Fingerprints come back, yes, that person is coming in the right way, and now they can actually work. Because they say, oh, well, they gave us phony documents and things. So we can fix that. The people that are here, however, okay, so it's because that's one. I want to go after the companies, because why are you getting off? Why are you luring people here with jobs? And then the second there's an ICE raid, you say, I didn't know. That's a lie. Okay, I've worked HR. I know there's ways for you to find out whether that person is here legally or not. Those who are here, there should be a path for them, but we have to now take that step back to say, okay, what do we do as far as those that are here, those that are coming? How long have they been here? Are we talking about the dreamers, children that were brought here or were born here? So it's different components of that. We do want to make sure that people come to the country the right way. And one of the things that we can do is go back to President Obama executive order. When President Obama was in, he signed an executive order that you can apply for asylum in the country, at the U.S. Embassy in your country. So they were not rushing the southern border. In fact, when President Obama left office, we were at a 50-year low on immigrants trying to come through the southern border. So we can go back to that policy. That was a good policy. But sometimes dealing with the partisanship, well, we didn't do it, so we're going to get rid of it. Meaning, if someone is in Colombia and they have a hardship, they can go to the U.S. Embassy in Colombia, apply, get a court date, and then go through the legal process that way. That's the first thing that I would do, is want to get that type of order put back in place. The second thing is dealing with those who are already here, who have been here, have been paying taxes, and giving them an opportunity to have a path to citizenship, much like they did in the 1980s. So I believe we can fix it, but we're going to have some. It's going to be some tough things. We're going to have people listen. If you want to come, you got to go through this process. So once we fix it, the fingerprinting, I think would wipe out a lot of issues, especially with these employers. And the reason that that's an issue too, because it keeps wages down for American workers. So as a union former ASHME, union person, it keeps wages down, because if you keep bringing in people for lower wages, then it hurts the middle class here in the United States. And I know a lot of these people that are coming to the country, they're just looking for a better life, and that's what America has always stood for. But right now, when they struck that executive order down, that's why you see the chaos at the southern border right now. So.
It has been reported here on the Drive at 5 that the issue of immigrants are not about Hispanics, but it's about Africans who are moving into the United States in alarming numbers that could reach millions, as well as they form their own economy.
Okay.
According to the BBC, Chicago has an extensive amount of African population in the city. Do you think it is a play for the underlay? Because whites fear they will not be the majority anymore in a couple of years, according to the census. And the policy set forth can control the population growth of Africans coming to the U.S. and affect the census numbers in favor of blacks.
I think that whenever you've had a system or a country that has had a majority of any race, and they see that slipping away, and that's just the reality of it, is that you have more brown and black children being born than white children right now. Policymakers, yes, if you look at what Stephen Miller and the Trump administration has done, a lot of those policies are directly to control which countries can come into the United States. You're not hearing student visas being denied from European countries. So yes, there are policymakers who are trying to, through legal methods, some get challenged in court, as we know, but they're trying to control, I feel, what's the inevitable. It is what it is. This country is changing. This country is only 243 years old. So we're going to keep evolving. And so there are some people that don't want to see that change. But I just believe that the inevitable is going to happen. And we just have to understand that some people will not go down without a fight. They won't. I mean, you got to think about it. If the roles were reversed, you would have some people that wouldn't want to go down without a fight. So by hook or crook, some of them, and some of the policies are absolutely ridiculous. But that's what they're trying to do. But that's not going to last. That's not going to stop the reality that black and brown babies are being born at a higher rate, even just, American citizens, than white babies, so so my answer on that is that, we're going to continue to, this country is going to continue to brown, and that's from countries all over. So.
Your district faced some serious challenges in certain areas. For example, the Austin community has a high number of crime issues that continues to increase. STD rates are still up at an alarming rate. Schools in the community are shut down at an alarming rate. As a result, they are converting elementary schools into high schools or have a 1st through 12th grade in the same school in Austin. What are your plans to curb the numbers, which are steadily increasing, and the population of Austin is decreasing?
There are 195 public and charter schools in the 7th Congressional District. This past January, I started doing a school tour, and I've actually gone out and visited many schools. And you're right. You're absolutely right. There is a disparity. Our district is very unique. We have some of the greatest schools I mean, in the country. And then you have schools literally directly across the street that don't even have their own gymnasium. Um, we have to do a better job. One of the things that I want to fight so hard for at education, when those federal grants go, the block grants go to each of the states for education, I want to ensure that from a federal level, that every child gets the same amount. That's critical. That every child. We've chopped it. We've allowed through testing. We've allowed through all of these different test scores and all of these things to continue to take money away from certain schools. And then to create all of these charter and magnet schools where you're pulling all of the best or the brightest out of their neighborhood schools. And so those schools wind up, of course, staying on academic probation, can't get to level one. So we have to fix the problem and change the model. For the last 60 plus years, we've been pushing all of our students for college. The reality of it is, Rum, a lot of these young people don't want to go to college. Some of them want to go to the military. Some of them want to be a young entrepreneur. Some of them just want to work a job. We have to make sure that our students are life ready when they graduate from high school, and give them that incentive that they're learning about money. They're learning about how to pay rent or a mortgage and things of that nature. So we have to, it's coupled at the federal level. I can fight as far as dollars, but ultimately as a constituent of the 7th congressional district, this is having those conversations with the mayor of Chicago and the presidents of the surrounding western suburbs and saying, how do we make sure that our children are getting a proper education? So that's not an easy fix, but if you have an advocate for education in Washington, D.C., fighting for those dollars, because like I said, when the block grants come back to the states, then they divvy it up in different ways. And as we know, with test scores and different things like that, but we can't do that.
Well, the Illinois state lottery at first supposed to go to education.
Yeah.
That been reduced to like single digit percentage.
Mm-hmm.
Now they're saying marijuana supposed to go to education.
Mm-hmm.
As congressman, what is the percentage you want to see in marijuana? Remember, the people who were incarcerated for marijuana was mainly African Americans.
Sure.
So how can we make sure those dollars get to low income communities?
I think the first thing that we're going to have to do is really hold the elected officials in Springfield accountable.
How?
By voting them out. Why do these people why do they get to keep their jobs? Why do we feel like we're powerless, Roman? This is how they've made us feel.
Because I have given Ms. Johnson a ham.
Okay.
Ms. Thompson a turkey.
Well, you're still talking
in a bingo game.
But you're still talking about tactics from 30 years ago. These younger people, I don't believe they're falling for that. In fact, most of them, until I identify myself as an independent, they don't even want to talk to me about politics. But when I say I'm an independent, they say, okay, what's your plan? The plan is, listen, when you have a system that has been set up by the duopoly, and I keep saying that because the Democrats and Republicans have set and rigged this system to keep independents out. I need to get 10 times the signatures as the Democratic Party just to get onto the ballot. And I need 46 times the signature count for a Republican. A Republican in the 7th congressional district only needs 271 signatures. A Democrat needs 1,230. I need 12,725. They do it by keeping voices. See, if I'm not on the team, I can say whatever I need to say. You got to think about it. If you're a team player, what do they say? Never talk about your team. Well, think about it. In Cook County, everybody's Democrat. Everybody. You might have one, I think maybe it's one or two city aldermen or something, but everybody. So if I talk about or say something about that, I'm talking about the team, and I might need their help down the road, because most of those elected officials, all they care about is getting back elected again. So we have to literally have a voice that's crying out in the wilderness. Someone that says, listen, this is wrong. In fact, the company is a management company. Their initials are AUSM. All right. And they manage public schools in Chicago. They get they get $410 per day for each of the students in those schools. They manage over 19,000 students. And 42% of those schools that were supposed to be turned around, they sit in my district. Who's saying anything about that? The recidivism rate in my district is over 80%. Who says anything about that? So once again, if everyone's on the same team, no one's going to speak on those issues. I'm about the people. I'm about my constituents. And so we have to listen. I understand you want an answer. This takes time to really navigate and understand how but it can be done.
I understand what you're saying. I
Okay.
understand, but it goes back to what, and I'm going to ask another question.
Okay.
But it's in response to this. What's happened recently over the weekend? Chicago Public Schools has voted to strike on September 26th if nothing will get resolved regarding their contract. The argument is school just starting, and it will make it difficult for parents to make alternative plans. As congressman, should there be a legislation to prevent Chicago Teachers Union from striking while school is in session from beginning, middle, and end of the school year? They had all summer long to resolve the issue, and nothing was done. And you're talking about being a team player. There are some people that saying, give me the ball. Give me the ball.
Well, now.
And you're saying, well, they don't want to talk about one another.
Right.
They don't want to do anything with one another because it's going to cost them. I'm saying that but it kind of goes with what my father always say, anything after but is BS. Well, so what I'm saying is there's always a however component. You had all summer long to resolve an issue. Regardless if you're Democrat or Republican, you had all summer long to resolve an issue. Now you're waiting till everything comes back, and then you're going to say, oh, we're going to have to strike. I'm sorry, kids. I'm sorry, kiddo. I'm sorry, parents. Sorry, but you're saying, give me the ball. I'm independent. Give me the ball. And why should I give you the ball? I'm the coach. Why should I put you in a game?
Well, here's the thing. You're talking about a local issue, and you have to remember a member of Congress is federal.
I know.
So well, hold on. So we're dealing with the monies that come back, fighting and bringing educational dollars back. I can be that voice. I can say, listen, you know what? The reason that they waited all until now, because it's the leverage. I mean, come on. You know, they waited all summer because now school's going to go back in. And we have more leverage. If it's a summertime, school is out, maybe we won't talk. All of these things, that's the political side of things. They say, okay, well, now that the kids are back in school or getting ready to go back in school.
But here's the problem that I'm you're playing politics with people's lives.
But Roman, here's the situation. We've had one party in this area for decades. We can't blame this on nobody else. It is only the Democratic Party. Period. End of the discussion on that. We can't blame it on the Republicans. We can't blame it on the Libertarians. This is all Democrats. Period. In discussion. And so when we're talking these things, we have to begin to look and say, okay, when are we going to vote these people out? When are we going to get them out of office? They haven't done the job, and yet and still they keep getting put back in office. So until the people decide to rise up, which I believe we're at a point 10 years ago, this might not have been able to be possible 20 years ago, but now people are ready and they're saying, listen, enough of this. So until the players change, it's like you're giving me the same soup, Roman, but you're putting it in a different bowl. So eventually, even a child, when my children was little, I could fool them on certain dishes. Now, hey, this is fun. And then after a while, they're like, you know what, them same chicken fingers, they just put it in a different plate. Until the constituents wake up and say, you know what, we're going to hold these people accountable. They don't do what we're telling them to do, we're getting them out of office. So when you asked the question earlier, why are some communities, even if they took special interest, why do they do the job? Because they know their constituents are more educated. on the facts of policy, and if they don't do what their constituents want them to do, they're out of a job. Our constituents, or has been, because that's changing. I want to educate our constituents on everything my office would be doing. I want them to know about, and that's how we hold. Okay, and then that'll be one, and then after me, it'll be another, and then another, and then all of a sudden, we can change the tide of things and begin to say, "Wow, we're going to vote for people who are actually about us, not about special interests, not about just keeping a job, not about just keeping a community in shambles." It's like, seriously, you guys don't. And this goes from aldermen, county commissioners, state reps, and state senators. You guys live in these communities. You know, I live here in Westchester. I saw a need. I stepped up to the plate, and I've been working with our public works department to take care of some things, to beautify and make our community more safe. So these are elected officials. Hold them accountable. That's how we're going to break some of that.
Also in education, many colleges and universities are saying public education as well as charter schools are not preparing students for higher education, to a result costing universities and some city colleges thousands, if not millions of dollars to have elementary courses to properly prepare them for higher education courses. As Congressman, what is your plan to assist in making sure that low-income communities in your district receive the same type of educational opportunities as well as resources like the affluent communities in your district? You mentioned some of those disparities earlier, but actually talk about how is your plan. You said you're going to bring the money. Okay. I'm giving it to Alderman Joe Blowy. I'm going to do you a favor. He's a Democrat, okay? The alderman. You got Michael Madigan. You got your state reps. You got all of them. Hey, man, if you give me $200,000 for my kids, I'm going to make sure you like $30,000 for your campaign. You ain't heard it from me.
Well, that's where you have to pull the covers. See, that's been going on, right? So people know this is how. So you pull the covers off of that. Once again, federal dollars come in block grants. So now you have to educate the people. You have to continue. Every chance I'm back in the district, I will be going around having people get back engaged in civics. That's why I told you at the top of the hour, we have a civic engagement crisis. They took civics out of school for years. So most people don't know how our political system really operates. We've just been told in a lot of communities, vote for this person, vote for that person, don't vote for that party, or vote for this party. So people don't know. And so they until we start to turn that table, we're going to find ourselves in some of those same things. But once again, one voice can make a huge difference. One voice can be that thorn.
But do you think you're the voice?
I am the voice because I've done it on different levels.
But where is your bullhorn to say this is wrong?
This is what we've been doing. See, a lot of times I'm a man of action. And so if I see there's a issue, I go about and we actually get that situation resolved. And I've done that all my entire life. See, there's a lot of chirpers out here, Roman. There's a lot, but they won't put these to work. They won't put their hands to work. They love to get on a bully pulpit and they want to point out problems. In fact, I made up a name for them years ago. I call them problem pointer outers. That's all they do. They point out problems, but they don't have a solution to those problems. And so until we start taking them one at a time, one at a time. That's why you can't, if you go to Congress, if I'm fortunate enough to be elected to Congress, it's only 2 or 3 issues that we gotta just keep our focus on and work on those and get results on those. And then we take on another issue and another issue. The problem is a politician will tell you, we can fix it all. That's a lie. You can't. So we have to take things one at a time. And if education is the biggest piece, if criminal justice is the biggest piece, if job creation, whatever those are, you have 2 or 3 of those that you work on and you put all of your efforts into until you start seeing positive results. Then you take on something else.
Donald Trump said the African American community unemployment rate is the lowest in history. However, if you go state by state, it's not the truth. Right. African American community economy is not tracked by government agencies. It's basically because majority of the population deals with cash and hookups. As Congressman, how can you curb the unemployment rate in the African American community in your district?
Well, one thing, I think that's not a true statement. We don't deal with a lot of, the majority of us don't deal with the cash and the hookups. But
what you say?
Okay, well, that's
wait. Hold on. The cash and hookups is like we have different sets of economy.
Sure, we do.
So
we do.
when
if you
when
get
they
a barber,
say
you get a beautician,
when you say African Americans unemployment rate is down, is because the U.S. government cannot track the people because they deal with cash. But the reason why I'm saying is because the hookups. If I'm an independent, I got a T-shirt for sale. I'm selling T-shirts. You gonna give me what? Costs $10. You're gonna give me cash. That's what I'm saying. Because it's what I'm saying is I'm not saying you're wrong. Only thing I'm saying is it's hard for the government to sit there and say it's the lowest that it can be. But if you go state by state.
Right. I already gave you the numbers for my district.
Go ahead.
18 to 30 is at 17%, which is almost 5 times the national average. And I know that because I work for the Department of Employment Security in the state of Illinois. So yes, we have an unemployment issue, a problem among African Americans in our district. We fixed that.
But it's higher, real higher among men than it is for African American women.
So let me say this. You fix that by, once again, taking down some of the myths that have been used for decades.
What are those?
A lot of these barriers, and this is why we're going to fight so hard about criminal justice reform. If I committed a crime and I, quote unquote, paid my debt to society, I should be given a clean slate because I can't be tried for that crime twice. That's called double jeopardy. That's in our Constitution. But we have to go back and find out when they started putting these tags on people. A lot of what I'm going to be working on, Roman, my first 2 years is getting some laws repealed that have hurt communities.
Can you name some of those?
The first one is when we carry these felony tags for life. A lot of these were nonviolent crimes. And if you're telling me the prison system has deemed this person, they've paid their debt and they can go back into society, they should get their full rights when they come back. If they're not deemed that, then why are we releasing them? So right there, that block right there keeps a lot of our young people from even trying to apply for jobs. A lot of them, couldn't or were not passing drug tests. They were using marijuana. Well, when that changes, that's going to take that off the table. So I think you will see a change, but we have to go back and say, okay, if I pay my debt to society, I paid my debt. Why now for the rest of my life, I have this tag that's going to prevent me from even getting a Pell Grant? I don't know if people are aware of that. You can't even qualify for a Pell Grant if you have a felony. There was a time where a person would get a charge on them and they would be offered, hey, you want to go to the military? They took that away. And so it's going back and looking at some of these things that really, helped our communities years ago and said, hey, we got to reverse some of that stuff. So that's what I will be putting my effort on.
Communities in your district do not have a grocery store and known as a food desert. Corner stores, beauty supply store, unlicensed nail shops and barber shops are taking advantage of the community, and that's considered the norm in low-income communities. As Congressman, how are you going to change the disrespect and provide more resources like grocery stores to curb the food deserts in your district? Not only the food desert, how can you provide Black entrepreneurs a chance and an opportunity? The number one thing here on the Drive at 5 is hard for an entrepreneur to get something in their own community. How can you change that?
Well, I told you earlier in the show, we're going to bring in all federal agencies to do workshops on how to apply and secure government loans government grants, in some cases loans. But with the food desert, I'm going to be the number one spokesman for my district. I've had the opportunity to travel abroad. I've had the opportunity to travel throughout this country. And if there's a grocery store or grocery stores in this region that do not want to go into certain communities, guess what? There are major grocery chains in this country. And so their Congress, if I'm elected Congress, I'm on the phone. I'm talking to those CEOs and saying, hey, listen, can I give you a tour of my district? And come here. So those are the types of things that you have to be willing to do versus just saying that there's a food desert. You have to be willing to now do something to change that. So that's the short of it that I would do.
Hey, I just want to ask this question. Could I ask one more question? Under your administration, what will be the plan for your first 100 days of Congress?
We're still formulating that, Roman. You know, when the first 100 days of Congress, and I know people like that. I'm not going to tell you that right now. This is August of not 2019.
You just want to come back on the drive. You just want to come back.
Because if you say those things, and I do want to come back, but if you say those things, a lot of times it's just cliche. We have to really see how things are going to play out because we don't know where we're going to be in 2021.
But here's my
I mean, I can go from my administrative piece. I can tell you how we're going to formulate certain things. I mean, I can lay all those things out because the first 100 days, believe it or not, is pretty much setting up your office, doing all those types of things. You're going to get, I know.
But you're saying you have 18 staff members.
Well, you can hire up to 18.
You can hire 18.
Yeah, but you would have to hire those people. You don't just.
But you will have a certain idea.
Yeah, those people still have to be qualified. You can't just snap your finger and just bring people in. You have to know that those people can get the job done. If not, you'll be right back in the same boat. So we're not going to do that.
How can Boy, I wish we had more time.
I'll come back.
How can people get a hold of
you? You can, my website is TracyJenningsCongress.com. That's Tracy, Tracy, Jennings, JENNINGS.com. They can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn. My Facebook, Twitter, Instagram is Tracy Jennings IL. And so they're welcome. We got some great things going on, and I'm just excited to be out there and meeting people and just learning how we can do things better. I can't leave this system to my children. So that's why I've done this. And I'm in this thing for the long haul. Gave up a position with the state of Illinois as an administrator to concentrate on this. So this is really important to me. And I want to show people what real leadership actually looks like.
To be continued.
All right.
Come back on the
Appreciate
drive.
You, man. All right.
That's going to do it for us on the Drive at 5 on IntellectualRadio.com/iHeart Radio Station. Thanks to our executive producer, Wanda B, filling in for Earl Winfrey, Earl behind the scenes. And guess what? Next week is our special Labor Day edition of the Drive at 5. Coming up next week.
Take care.